Hey everybody, Zach again at newtutorial.com. I wanted to come in and do a video for you today. You know, I was out traveling recently, and I went to San Diego, and as I was going through the airports, I took the time to go ahead and record some videos while I was going, just some B-roll footage of me just going through the terminals and seeing what I was seeing and on the flights. You know, and because I thought about when I got back, I would do probably some kind of review, just giving people the state of the airport's address. So, I mean, what is the state of our airports today? You know, because as I was going through, I noticed some things that I'm like, you know, this is different. Because I've traveled a lot, you know, at different times of my career and my life. And you know, so it's like I'm watching this evolution of the airports, you know, occur before my eyes, before my life as we go through it. You know, and just some things stand out to me. You know, number one, obviously, is the TSA presence is just phenomenal nowadays. It's not in a good way. It's just overbearing. It's everywhere. And it's just, I see that. I'm walking around the airports today, and, you know, the TSA presence is just everywhere. Blue shirts. I mean, before when the TSA first started, you know, and you had Big Sis, you know, Napolitano, whatever her name was, running the place, and they just started to roll out TSA. You had TSAs right at the checkouts, you know, or the check-ins, you know, where you got your luggage right before you got into the terminals. Before you were allowed access, you had the TSA guys, the blue shirts, right there at the metal detectors. But today, it's all over the airport. I mean, they're just walking around in singles or in pairs. They're, I guess, doing patrols, hanging out near the restaurants, just everywhere. They're just walking through. And, you know, I guess it's weird because, I don't know how to put this. You know, if you go like into a Walmart and, you know, you have the people who are the most, I guess, intelligent running the, you know, people maybe who had the higher education, working the customer service areas and some of the things that require just a little more, I don't know, you know, education to do. And then you have some of the people, you know, like the greeter, you know, who may be someone who's elderly or maybe even someone who, you know, has some sort of disability who can be a greeter, you know, and they give jobs to those people because that's what they can do, and God bless them for it, that they have a job. But the thing is, you know, the people who've excelled in when it comes to skill level and education are at different parts of the store. Well, it's almost the same way for the airports and TSA. The guys who are running the metal detectors, who are doing reports and you know, they have paperwork actually to do, they're up doing those things. And then the guys who are maybe not so much, they're doing the patrols, just going around and, you know, interacting with the public or just walking around. It's just, you can just, I don't know. It just seems that way. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they're doing. But I see the guys running around doing the patrols. It's the young kid, fresh out of college maybe, or not even just fresh out of high school maybe. And, you know, he's old enough to have a 21-year-old driver's license, and he's got, you know, acne all over his face. Or you may see the guy, you know, walking around in a TSA uniform who just looks like me, you know, kind of a homeless looking guy, just walked out of the woods. You know, I just walked out of the woods, you know, and I got this nice crisp TSA uniform on, but I look like, you know, Jed from, you know, Deliverance. Just walked out of the woods. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you my observations of traveling. And you know, I don't like traveling. Who likes to travel? I mean, some people like to travel. They love, you know, it's a new experience getting on an airplane, going through the airports. But when you do it all the time, and I'm getting ready to probably do a lot more traveling here soon, and so for a job, and I'm just going through, and I figure I saw some of these things. I'm like, you know what, this is good. I'm going to take some footage of some of these things and just try to. And I didn't want to, you know, alert any TSA terror things or whatever. But I was like, because I would have loved to go up some of these blue shirts, you know, and just film them while I was in the airport. But, you know, they might think I have a beard, I'm a terrorist or something. And, you know, so I didn't want to sound all the alarm bells off. But you ever seen that website, what's it, thepeopleofwalmart.com? They should start one, thepeopleoftsa.com. I mean, I just think that would be somebody out there, some budding entrepreneur can start peopleoftsa.com or something like that and just film some of these guys, because some of them, I mean, there are some out there of the TSA who have the chiseled, hard, good looks, you know, and they're the, you know, and they have, you know, some pretty woman up there, doing the check-ins, and then there's this rock-hard, chiseled guy, who's the epitome of a male, and that's the guys that you'd use for the billboards, right? But then there's these others who walk around and, kind of look like me. So, anyway, so other things I was noticing too, so I go through the airport and I'm checking in. This is when I first got to the thing, and I got there maybe not too early, but early enough. And I saw there was a woman who was before me. She was getting on a flight, and they made the TSA. She's going through the TSA check-in, and she decides to opt out. And I go, huh? And so I'm checking this woman out, just looking her up and down. I'm like, okay, she's like in her 20s. She decides to opt out. She doesn't look like a revolutionary or anything. She's a blonde-haired woman, pure American. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, well, she could be a mother. Maybe she doesn't want to go through because she's heard of the radiation that those machines emit, certain people. It's obvious out there, those things, emit radiation. And so I'm thinking maybe she's concerned about that. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe she is maybe her and her husband are trying to get pregnant, and she wants to avoid the radiation. So I don't know. I'm like looking at her. Why would she decide to opt out? She looked fairly educated, or successful, regular woman. And I got up there and I'm like, no, I'm not going to opt out, because I saw what they did to this woman. I decided to go through it. Because they put her aside, and she began to wait, and she waited, and she waited, and they, after I was completely done and through, I was like, I'm not going to go through the hassle, because I could already tell that they were going to make a hassle of this woman just by the sheer tone of their voice as she went through. And I'm like, I should have done it. I should have just opted out. I should have opted out. Just to join her in her commiserating, because it was, it seems to me, if you decide to opt out, they're going to make a spectacle of you. They're going to make you wish you hadn't. They're going to make you wish that you would just have gone with the flow. They're going to make you stand out. And it's just annoying. But really, the sign that there's all kinds of articles and things you can find on the internet that talk about the radiation and the X-rays or gamma rays, whatever these things put out. It's unhealthy for you. And flying in general is unhealthy, because when you're at 32,000 feet, the amount of radiation that hits you in the airplane is actually a lot more than what you get hit with on the ground. And so people have done studies on that, and the actual radiation is increased already. So now they're getting you with a double dose before you even get on the airplane. So anyway, that struck me as I was going through the airports and I was watching this all happen. And then I'm going through and I'm just looking at different things going on in the airport. I'm watching all the TSA walking around. But then also I'm noticing, as I'm going through, hold on a second. The other thing I noticed as I'm going through the airports is that there's no such thing anymore as carry-ons. That there used to be, you go to the checkout thing and you're like, do you have any carry-ons? Do you want to check any luggage? I'm like, no, I want to keep this all as carry-on. I've been before, I've lost my luggage before. I'm not going to try to do that anymore. When I travel, I try to keep everything carry-on. Well, there really, isn't any carry-on anymore. All right, if you're like, the airline has separated you into groups. And so, I call it cattle calls. Cattle call 1, cattle call 2, cattle call 3, cattle call 4. And if you're on cattle call 3 or 4, or group 3 or 4, they're going to make you check your luggage. I mean, you have to check it. They may put a red tag on it. They may put a white tag on it. They may print it out for you. But you're going to check your luggage. There's no more carrying it onto the airplane. And I'm like, why is that? So I started to pay attention. Excuse me. And as I was getting on the plane, there was plenty of room up in these overhead bins. There was one time where they made me check my luggage, and I looked, and for sure there was overhead bin space as I'm getting on the airplane. And I think they're doing that to try to encourage people to spend more money so that they get included in group 1 or group 2. These are the first 2 groups that board the airplane first. And those, you don't have to check your luggage. But they always make these excuses. Well, this is a full flight. They're all full flights. This is a full flight, and you've got to check your luggage because we don't have any space, and we're all out of space. When in reality, there are a number of people who get on the airplane, and they don't really have any carry-on luggage. They have one item they're going to keep with them in their seat or underneath the seat. And so I think they're trying to get you to spend more money that way, and it's just kind of that's annoying. I hate being the last one on the airplane. Anyway, so I'm going through and I'm looking at all this, and I'm just observing all of this, taking it all in, and I just don't like flying. It's an annoyance. It's one of those things. They could make flying enjoyable. It could be something that you look forward to. And some of these airplane commercials, these airline commercials, or whatever, Boeing commercials you see online, they make these airplanes look really luxurious and fun to fly in. Folks, I've talked to people who've flown overseas, and it is really enjoyable. There are some really nice aircraft out there that you can fly on. United States, regional, no. It's a cattle car, up in the sky. That's all it is. And it's not that fun. It really just isn't. One cool thing, I was flying back from San Diego back here, and I had to fly to Dallas or somewhere. And so it's kind of, pretty good distance. And they put us on an airplane that was a lot more modern. And it had a cool little interface up on the seat in front of you that you could go through. And it was neat seeing this because I actually designed one of these for the last company I worked for it was for Royal Caribbean. A company had contracted me and paid me to build one of these for Royal Caribbean. Every time someone would get onto the Royal Caribbean cruise line, they would be given an iPad, and the iPad would have the software on it, and then you could use it to watch movies or order martinis or do whatever stuff, anything you wanted to order or anything you wanted to do on the ship, you could be accessed through this iPad 3. And then when you left the ship at the end of the cruise, you would turn in your iPad. And it was just kind of funny because I got to see this. Basically, it wasn't the software I designed, but it was very, very similar, and got to finally play with it and see what it was all about. And it worked pretty good. And, it was enjoyable to see that, and I got to utilize that on my flight back. So that was kind of cool. Guys, flying could be really cool. It could be a really cool experience, but the problem is the government has gotten in there and just is mucking everything up, and it's really an annoyance. It's a hassle. And people, if the airlines are curious at all about what people think of flying, get the government the heck out of the airports. Make everything private security to where the government has absolutely zero influence whatsoever anymore. And I bet airlines and flying, the experience of flying would be enjoyable again. I bet it would. Anyway, I just thought you might like to hear about my review, just experience in flying. Like I said, I'm going to be doing it probably a lot more with work coming up, and it's going to be all kind of homestead related. So I think people out there will enjoy what I'll be doing in the future. But anyway, I just thought about this whole thing, and as I was going to the airports, watching what was going on, and just kind of being overall disgusted with it. I think flying could be much more enjoyable and not such a hassle and not so much of reminiscent of 1938 Germany. I don't know. What do you think? Post a comment below. We'll leave it at that. Go home, read your Bible. Thanks.